And in addition to that, Australia is also providing very significant assistance to Iraq to build their capacities to fight IS in the core area.
You mentioned those who are fighting with IS overseas. How does Australia deal with, or how should Australia deal with, dual citizens who are fighting with or supporting IS?
About 50% of the Australians who have left for Syria and Iraq, they are dual citizens. Australia will strip them of Australian citizenship. Of the support network, again, about 50% of those individuals are dual citizens. Australia will take similar action against the support network.
How effective do you think that will be?
That will be a deterrence, but Australia needs to do much more. For instance, Australia needs to create more internet platforms to promote moderation and also to counter the extremism online. That is in addition to the work that they are doing in the physical space of engaging communities, engaging families, engaging religious and educational organizations.
You attended a similar summit at the White House back in February. How does this conference in Sydney that you've been part of, how does this compare with the US summit? How does this one build on what was done back in February, or what was discussed back in February, and how does it all move on so it goes from being words into policies, into actions that actually work?
The Australian summit is a much more practical one. For instance, today they produced a social media guide because IS main platform is using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So now there's a guide that is produced in Australia empowering those community groups to counter IS propaganda. So it's more practical. The Australian Prime Minister addressed the event. George Brandis, the Attorney General, played a key role. And I want to say that they have emphasized empowering those communities. So they are going to the grassroots to manage this problem. They know the limitations of intelligence and law enforcement in this, so they are involving the community leaders. So I believe that the Australian response is a very decisive one, because for the first time we saw the head of ASIO addressing a very open conference of community leaders and business companies and embracing them, bringing them to the security fold and building bridges with them. So in that way, Australia has understood the importance of working with the ordinary people, the population of this country.
And in particular, there's been a bit of a focus on the role that women should play in stopping people from fighting with IS or anything like this. The Foreign Minister Julie Bishop spoke about this at the conference as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Of the Australians that have travelled to Syria and Iraq includes Australian women who have been radicalised, and as a result of that, the Australian government is specifically looking at what can be done to close the gaps in that area, in the vulnerable area. And I believe that some of the activities that Australia has taken is a lesson for other countries. There's a specific brigade called the Al-Khansa Brigade in IS, where they have enlisted women. And I believe that it is so important for governments like Australia to work, especially with the female youth, to prevent them from being radicalized.
Dr. Rohan Gunaratne speaking to us a little earlier.